I think about what Anthony Bourdain might say about us, and I imagine it in my mind to go something like this. Nestled just at the part where prairie meets foothills and then becomes mountain. Just east of there lies the biggest cow town the world has ever seen, Denver. Looking remarkably refreshed and gentrified, modern Denver looks nothing like its former self. It is reinventing itself into something more akin to a modern sculpture with art pieces of many shapes and sizes applied liberally throughout, letting you know that Denver has one foot in the past and both eyes on the future. Currently unaffordable for many, and yet for another class, a sea of opportunity. Prairie meets mountain. Spirit meets wilderness. I know they arrived here and they got into those mountains and came back, and Denver was born. The last wellspring of tranquility before the incredibly daunting Rocky Mountains. Generations of rugged men and adventurous women came here seeking to reinvent themselves and find their fortunes. And fortunate they are. The sun shines on Denver a good part of the time, making it a highly desirable place to launch careers or make beers. They are perhaps the adventurers lost and found, they would say. And here are so many jewels and talents waiting to be shared. Like the showman awaits the audience, Denver awaits for those willing to explore it and taste its take, old and new, on everything delicious. Thought of as a cow town by those who don't know better, but Denver and Colorado, for that matter, are full of startups and new ideas being brought to life by 2.5 million beautiful, vibrant people that make up this region. Oh, and did I mention they smoke a lot of pot? Warehouses full of the wacky tobacco, the finest natural cannabis, available for persons of legal age. It's like Amsterdam's bigger brother on steroids. Once the bastion of a guy I know, to being an enormous industry that employs thousands legally and generates millions for local coffers as well. Perhaps nowhere shows what success looks like better than Colorado. I made a lucky roll, and when I rolled those dice, they came up Denver. Yeah, that's kind of how I envision it sounding in my mind. That's kind of how I envision Tony breaking it down in my mind, something like that. Welcome to the Matt Mettler podcast broadcast. This is episode number 11. I'd like to welcome every single one of you out there to the show. And I want to thank my 21 listeners. I was looking at my analytics. It's kind of interesting, people. You know, YouTube lets you see a lot of stuff. And I was looking at my analytics. And so I now know that I have 21 people out there that watch the show. And that's a hell of a start. That's a pretty good start. I'm hella impressed with that, and I just want to keep it going. I just want to keep it growing, right? I think it's amazing. So I want to say thank you to my 21 listeners out there. Thank you for listening to the show. I very much appreciate it. You guys rock. All right, I got a few things to talk about this episode. This last weekend, I got to go on a camping trip, and I went to my secret spot. And one thing that kind of was a bummer, when we got up there was already somebody in my secret spot. I hate when that happens, man. We found another different spot. We parked and got our tent set up, and then it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained. It was categorically what I would call ranger training, right? Where you're out there in the forest and it kind of sucks and you're just sort of embracing the suck. Right? You got to just embrace the suck. Because ironically enough, I don't always go camping. Well, let me put it this way. As a former Boy Scout, the reason that we went camping was to be self-sufficient, understand living in the woods, learn how to adapt, do all those things, right? So going out and living in the forest when it's crappy, there's a lesson in that too, right? And it really does make you appreciate the things in life, like hot showers and running water, man. I'm telling you. And it also made me appreciate just how incredibly rugged our ancestors were, because they were tough people. They were so much tougher than us. We all look like pansies compared to our forefathers and foremothers. Is that even a word? I don't know. But compared to our ancestors, we are very sissified compared to them. It's kind of humbling to go up in the woods and stay there overnight. Oh, and then it got down to about maybe 45 that night, or 40 43, 41, something like that. So it was pretty chilly. It rained all night. I barely slept. I slept some, but we got up the next morning and we packed everything up and we got the hell out of there right off the bat, man, because it was supposed to keep raining that day and it wasn't going to cut much slack. It was definitely an adventure. There's no doubt about that. One thing that was really great is on the way out of there, we saw a guy. He was holding up his jumper cables and was needing to jump. So we zipped over real quick and gave him a jump. He was a very nice guy from Alaska, and he was up there camping in the secret spots. I was so glad that we were able to help him out. Apparently, he had been sleeping overnight, and he had left the radio on, and his car wouldn't start. And when you're up in BFE and your car won't start, that's not good, right? So I was so glad that we were able to pull over and help him out and give him a jump start. And the funniest thing happened. When I popped the hood to connect the jumper cables, we discovered that there was a mouse. There was a mouse hiding in the engine compartment of the van. The van had been running for a while, and it was warm. And I think one of the mice from the forest or something just decided to leap up into the engine to get some of that warmth action going on in there. And so he was in there. And then we got down the hill a little bit to a restaurant that's just outside of where I like to camp. And we opened the hood. He's still in there. He's still in there. And then we think that he rode all the way to Denver in the engine compartment. It was funny. I was like, well, eventually it's going to get so hot that he's going to have to bail. He's going to have to jump off. He's going to, when we stop somewhere, he's going to jump off. And I was thinking to myself, it was definitely the plot to an entire movie, no doubt about it. And that effectively as a mouse, he was dropped off 1,000,000 miles from where he started. And the cool part was that we were able to stop and help that gentleman, give him a jump start. I'm glad that we could do that, man. Paying it forward. Pay it forward, people. It feels great to do that. It really does. Got back to Denver, set up the tent, had just enough time to air it out and fold it back up and put it away before it started raining in Denver. So I was glad we left when we did. It all worked out. Lessons were learned. Again, I'm thankful for the amenities, man. I'm so thankful to have showers and water and things like that, because when you live up in the woods, it definitely makes you appreciate that sort of stuff, for sure. Oh, man. So I wanted to talk about a couple of my favorite restaurants down in Colorado Springs. I'm actually a kid of the Springs, you might say. Technically, I'd be a kid of the Black Hills, but I moved to Colorado when I was 8. So you might call me semi-native. I've lived here a really long time, 39 years now. So, well, and I guess technically it'd be 37 years because I spent 2 years over in Europe. Two great places that don't change down in Colorado Springs. Two of my favorite places to go, man. There is an incredible pizza joint down there called Leon Jesse's. It's been there forever, right? And they make the best pizza. And part of what I absolutely love about Leon Jesse's, they do not tinker with the formula. They do not change it. They leave it exactly the same. That pizza that they make tastes just as good today as it did when I first started eating there when I was 8 or 9. I'm pretty sure I was 9 when I started eating there. Their pizza is exactly the same as far as how it tastes in their recipe, and they don't mess with it. And I love that. There's something to be learned about that. When you finally get the formula or you finally get that recipe, don't mess with it. Man, it's perfection. Just leave it exactly the way it is. So, Leon Jesse's down in the Springs, man. Go see those guys and get a pizza. You haven't even had a pizza until you go see those dudes, man. That's the truth. And then right next door to them, just adjacent to the property where Leon Jesse's is BJ's Velvet Freeze. BJ's Velvet Freeze has been there forever. It seems like they've actually expanded to stay open even during the winter. They used to close for the winter and go somewhere else. I don't know where they used to go to, but it seems like the place is now so popular that they just stay open all the time, which is great. Good for them. I don't see any reason you can't sell some ice cream in the winter. And they have the very best ice cream. And I'm not kidding, people. BJ's Velvet Freeze has amazing ice cream, and there's a reason it has been popular for as long as it has. It's been there forever as well. So two of my favorite places that don't change in Colorado Springs are Leon Jesse's Pizza and BJ's Velvet Freeze. You guys should try and enjoy some of that if you get the chance. My next segment that I wanted to talk about, The Vagabond army that lives to serve you. The Vagabond army that I speak of is the stagehand, rigger, technician army that is associated with the music and concert and entertainment business in general. Whenever you do any kind of entertainment gig, you always got to have stagehands to help load all the stuff in and unpack everything and set everything up. That's stagehands specialize in these things, right? And they are the Vagabond army that descends on your venue just prior to the moment that they're needed. They're like ninjas. They just come out of the woodwork at the time that they've been booked, and they show up and they do all this cool stuff. And then 4 hours later, there's a show ready to go, dude. It's pretty cool to watch, man. And I love that Vagabond army. They are an amazing group of people that get too little credit for having a role in entertainment. Entertainment would not be what it is without people who unpack the stuff and set it up and make it all work and then put it all away and put it in the truck and do it all again the next day, right? Without those people, that Vagabond army, the show would not go on. So I wanted to give them props, man, and just say that the Vagabond army that lives to serve you is out there, and we should appreciate them. No doubt about it. My next segment is that Juggalos are the best fans a band ever had. Juggalos, in my entire experience being around entertainment, I have to say that by far the most loyal, the most into it fans that I've ever seen are the Juggalos. Often misbranded as a gang or some sort of something that they're not. They were put on some sort of organized crime gang list by the FBI, and I think that that's completely unwarranted. The Juggalos are definitely a group, but they're not a threat to us, right? Juggalos are certainly not a threat to us in any way. They just want to live their lives and be left alone, basically. They want to be left alone to live their lives, right? They're not trying to mess with us. So for them to be labeled as something like a criminal organization, I think is bunk, right? The Juggalos are actually just this incredibly worked up group of people who love their band. And I've never seen fans that love a band as much as the Juggalos do. So I got to give Juggalos props, man. Whoop, whoop. I got to give you props for just being the most loyal, amazing fans to a band that a band could ever have. You guys are a loyal fan. Like any artist would be very lucky to have a fan as dedicated as a Juggalo. No doubt about it. My next short topic, man, that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I don't want anybody to take this personally. What I'm about to say might be offensive to some people, but I don't want anybody to take it personally. This is just me living here, making an observation about people that live here. I live here, and the following statement applies to me too, okay? Coloradans dress funny. We do. We wear interesting, weird combinations of things. It's not just that, like, girls will be in Walmart in their pajama pants and their slippers. It's not just that. It's that it's that you'll have in the winter time, or it'll be fairly cold, springtime, there'll be some guy walking around and he'll have on like some short pants. Now in Colorado, a lot of people wear short pants that go just below the knee. We wear that sort of stuff here. A lot of that stuff, longer shorts, things like that. In the middle of winter, you'll see some dude wearing shorts with his, from just below his knee to his ankle exposed, and he'll have shoes on, and then he'll, have a tank top, and he'll be walking around, and we are exactly like that. We do that. That is Colorado. And all the time I go places and I see Coloradans dressed funny. I'm not trying to slam on anybody. I do it too, right? I'm totally guilty of wearing tank tops when it's freezing outside. I do all that weird stuff too, man. So I'll wear sandals, just anywhere with that's the other thing. Coloradans are kind of fond of sandals of all kinds. Your Jerusalem cruisers, Coloradans love to wear those. So yeah, you can see Coloradans wearing funny stuff all the time. I think it's kind of humorous. I just laugh about it. I don't think that it's bad. I just think that it's a funny thing about people that live in Colorado is that we kind of choose to dress funny. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think part of what it is that Coloradans are like, we put the practicality of things above the fashion component of it. And I think that that's because we're more rugged and we're more practical, right? And it doesn't mean that fashion doesn't exist here. It's just in a weird warped place where it combines with everyday practicality. And so a lot of people wear weird stuff, man. So that's what I'm going to say about Coloradans. We dress kind of funny, me included. If you guys ever meet me, so a lot of these people that are listeners, they're my friends. They know me. But for my other listeners out there that don't know me, I dress funny too, man. So I'm not slamming on anybody. I'm just saying all Coloradans dress kind of funny. I think that's funny. All right. Changing topics. What is our fascination with watching people in jail? Have you noticed how many jail shows there are? There's an awful lot of shows about jail. And I think that in a way it's very, I don't want to say it's bizarre that we focus or spend so much time on people in jail. And I think part of the problem is that it makes such compelling television, right? But in some way, I can't help but feel like it's slightly cruel and unusual punishment to be televising these people in their jail experience. But I also realize that to make jail better and to show what's really going on and to give it accountability and to demonstrate that there's definitely at least three sides to that story. There's the inmates side, the detainers side of that story, and then there is the truth, right? And somewhere in all of that is the jail story. And it's so crazy to me that there are, on Netflix, there's got to be at least, 10 shows, more, 15, 20, devoted to jails, people in the jails, what they're there for. I'm kind of just like, what is the morbid fascination with all this jail shows? And then, the gal that I hang around with, she says that she likes to watch them because she can relate to it, because for a good portion of the people that are detained in these lockup facilities, they had rough, traumatic childhoods. They had homes where mom was messed up or dad was missing or both. They had they had rough childhoods. And I think in that respect, that's what makes her gravitate to it, is that there's something about seeing these other people and their messed up lives that makes us feel better. But I just think it's kind of weird that we spend so much time watching people that are incarcerated, and that the media gives so much time to those who are incarcerated. I've been watching this one on Netflix. It's Girls Incarcerated. It's about all these young gals that are basically in a youth detention facility. They're all under 18. And man, some of those people really got challenges. And some of those people, I really wonder how they are salvaged to become some part of society that works with us and isn't just a net negative on everybody. Giving them the benefit of the doubt that they can change in the same way that I changed and that I didn't always stay the same person. I hope that people in that situation can get their stuff together and figure it out. I went through hard times where I struggled too, so I'm not trying to get too judgy on people, but yeah, it's crazy to watch all these shows about all these people that are incarcerated. And I think one of the things that reinforces in my mind is that we have entirely too many people in jail, entirely too many people locked up, right? My next brief topic that I wanted to talk about is don't smoke and book, people. If you're thinking about planning vacations and stuff like that, don't smoke a whole bunch of herbs and then book stuff, because you may have trouble remembering that you booked that stuff later, or you may have trouble. Don't smoke and book. Yeah, that's just a good rule. Don't get too wasted and book. I think for the last few minutes of this, I want to talk about a couple of things. One, that we live in a world full of wonderful and amazingly talented people. It's true. It really is true. And I don't just mean singers and performers. I mean craftsmen, people that have really spent the time to master their craft and who are so amazing at doing all the wonderful things that they do. Like, we are so lucky to live in that world, because without those people, the world would be flavorless. The world would be colorless and tasteless, and it wouldn't have beautiful music or art. You know, like, I'm so thankful to all of these talented people in the world that create all that stuff. And part of the reason I say that is that we went and saw Toy Story 4, and it was incredible. The storytelling, the art of storytelling in that medium, the CGI medium, is incredible these days. And it was, I gotta say that the storyline plot for film number 4 was pretty good. I went in wondering how they were going to make the 4th film happen and be good, right? They did a pretty amazing job, I gotta say. And all the actors that played the voices were incredible, and the animation was incredible. It's so crazy to think that we live in a time where we can tell these stories. These fantastical, magical stories can be told in a way that is so pseudo-real that you're no longer focusing on the medium of how it's telling it to you. Like, back in the day, you know, they would try to tell you a story, but you would be focused on the lack of the medium's ability to transmit to you the overall feeling, the overall thought, without you paying attention to the medium itself, like looking at the special effects. Or we've now moved beyond that. You can just watch the movie and it has nothing to, like, there's nothing impeding your ability to just focus on the story. It's incredible. Really is amazing. It's amazing to see how many people's hard work goes into those movies. To folks out there, if you're thinking about going to see Toy Story, it's pretty good. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I'm not entirely certain that Toy Story 4 is a children's story. It seems almost like it's more of an adult story because there's so much creepy shit in that movie. There's so many creepy ass dolls in that movie. It's just kind of, yeah. I wasn't entirely sure if it was for kids or if it was for adults. It was very weird. So I want to thank all those amazingly talented people for all their creativity and all the work that they do, because it makes life so much more rich to have all this wonderful stories and to be able to see this stuff. It's just incredible. Another one that I really loved was the Lego movie. I was a Lego kid, okay? And I love the Lego movies. And, you know, you can call me whatever you want for that, but I love the Lego movies. It is so hilarious to me in the first one, the space guy with the broken chin part on his helmet, right? That was the era of Legos that I came out of. So I completely relate. And I think it's hilarious the way that they imbue in these characters that, depending on what period of time they came out of, they build things in a certain way, or they desire to build things in a certain way. That's hilarious. That's a hilarious thing, man. I love the Lego movies. All right. I was thinking about, and I think this is probably going to be the last subject before I wrap it up today, is that the snake that eats itself. The snake that eats itself. And all of us have seen at one point in our lives that circular thing where the snake eating its own tail, you know? And I was thinking about how we've got that going on in media. Media is the snake that's eating its own tail right now. It's the thing destroying itself. You had traditional media, and you got like the cable news networks and the traditional news outlets. They are incredibly threatened by the internet model, by Facebook and by Google. They now control their destinies and their fates, and they don't like that. So there's actually now this backlash where traditional media is attacking new media and trying to destroy new media because new media is destroying their money pool. Like, new media is taking eyeballs away from their viewership. It's making people not interested in their product anymore, and it's freaking them out, right? And so they have actually now lashed out at new media, and they have labeled anything that they want to try and shut down or get rid of as alt-right. They can just easily label it alt-right, and then suddenly, like, it's not listened to as much, or it's discounted as far as what it's really there to do. So you've got traditional media who is so threatened by new media, and they're trying to now attack new media to try and make them look like they're not competent, or that they're not somehow in the club of being legitimate journalists. And I don't believe that. Anybody who's out there reporting, anybody who's out there showing what's actually going on and showing it in an unbiased or a less biased or in a newsy kind of way that doesn't involve personal agendas, all of that stuff is completely valid in my mind. It doesn't matter who filmed it. It's like Timcast. I think that Timcast is doing a very good job of being an objective set of eyeballs on the news. And even though he's constantly claiming that he's left center, I can appreciate his perspective because he talks sense. We need more people like that who can approach things a little more objectively and leave their personal agendas out of it, right? It's like if you're going to be reporting the news, that's where you need to be coming from. I guess you would have a viewership or a group of people that are interested in just reinforcing their own perspectives. And clearly that does exist. Clearly that whole paradigm of wanting or seeking out things that echo the things you already want to believe. So interestingly enough, I was thinking about the same people that fall for the Rachel Maddow tears and the Rachel Maddow drama nonsense. Those are exactly the same people that fall for the Alex Jones bullshit. It's the same kind of gullibility and the same kind of believing in these people as some sort of spirit guide. And they're not. They're just trying to use you. Yeah, know that. When I first found Alex Jones, I watched him for a while. And he was very compelling to watch. And sometimes he acted bizarre. And I couldn't quite figure it out. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was about Alex Jones. Then I looked up Alex Jones shill. There's all of these videos out there about Alex Jones and how he's a shill. And there's many conspiracies around, the fact that he's bought and paid for by big money, that he actually has pretty big money backing up his project. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, that Alex Jones is to news as WWE is to wrestling. It's not to say that there's not a component of wrestling in there. That is to say that it is being presented to you in a way that is designed to be very compelling and less about the news and more about component of drama that sell the sizzle, not the steak, I guess would be a good way of putting it. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. Once I started looking up Alex Jones shill, and I found some videos where Alex Jones would go out and do really obnoxious, stupid stuff in a public forum. He went out to a 2A rally that somebody had put together and effectively tried to hijack their 2A rally. It's like, what kind of jerk does that? What kind of jerk shows up in some local municipality where he doesn't even know a single person, puffing his chest out, trying to intimidate people and trying to take all the mic time? What kind of jackass does that? And so what I discovered is that he's a shill. I think that he's a total shill. And it explains his completely bizarre behavior. Because when you look at him from a shill perspective, he's just trying to agitate. He's just trying to foment. He's just trying to get people fired up to do stupid things. He's trying to get people agitated enough to go out there and be bad actors in the world. And it serves a purpose to cause chaos. So I'm not exactly sure where I was going with that whole thing, but it is interesting to watch these people battle it out against each other. And I personally think that part of the reason you see such ridiculousness from CNN and MSNBC and places like this is because they're so desperate. They are so desperate. They'll say anything to get eyeballs back on their channels, dude. They are losing so many people. And one of the things is that once you don't have enough viewers, your model is completely unviable anymore. Like all of a sudden it's a subsidy model where you have to consistently put money into it. And the only reason that you're doing it is to control the outcome of the conversation. It doesn't have anything to do with reporting the news. That is what I'm going to say about the snake that eats itself. All right. I want to go ahead and wrap this one up, people. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to this show. I want to say thank you for sharing it and liking and subscribing. All of you are awesome. My 21 listeners, I hope that soon it's more. I hope that I can make this thing into something that a whole lot of people listen to. You know, the funny part is 21 listeners is probably more than I had at night when I was working at the radio station. So I'm actually okay with that. But I want this thing to grow, right? And I am eventually trying to figure out a way to make this all turn into some sort of actual job. And at some point, you guys will see my face, and or this will become something that also has videos, right? It's not always going to be just an audio only format. But to all my listeners, I just want to say thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share, and talk about it with your friends. And make sure that you join me for the next episode of the Matt Mettler Podcast. The Matt Mettler Podcast is a Matt Mettler production. Copyright 2019.